What up, folks? Once again, it's your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. What type of passengers are most likely to tip? We're going to discuss this because I had a video that I posted the other day stating the question of why is it that passengers in rideshare, whether you're with Uber or Lyft, do not tip us at all. If you've been in the game for even a short period of time, you know passengers don't leave you shit. 10, 20, maybe 30% of passengers leave you a tip if you are lucky. So what type of passengers, even among that paltry 30%, are more likely to tip? We're going to discuss that today. So it's kind of a fun video. Folks often suggest where your videos are a bit negative, but this is one where I believe we can get a dialogue going because we're dealing with veteran drivers all over the country. Some new drivers, prospective drivers, often watch my videos and comment as well. So what type of passengers are likely to tip? Now, in my comment section on the last video, someone stated that black folks do not tip at all. I seen that in the comments. I had somebody else ask me, damn, you got racist viewers on your page? Well, in regards to suggesting that black passengers do not tip, is that racist? Hell no, it ain't if it's true. If you're in a market where the vast majority of your African-American passengers don't leave you shit, no, it's not racist. You're telling the damn truth. No different than folks who suggest that a lot of college kids do not leave tips. If you're picking up children from high school, you think you're going to get a tip? Hell no. So what are the type of passengers that leave tips? We're going to compare some groups. And I want you folks in the comments, particularly my veteran drivers, let me know what your take is, whether I'm getting this shit wrong or if it resonates in your market. And if you want to state your market in the comments, feel free to do so because like I stated before, we all are in the business to help out each other. We know Uber and Lyft ain't trying to help us out worth a damn. So if we can help out each other, we can tell information, share shit that helps out other folks, so be it. But at the end of the day, this is an impromptu, informal video just to have some fun. And as always, subscribe to the damn channel. This is what we talk about here. I enjoy the participation in the comments. I want to give you my wholesome thank you for that. So, give you some of the groups. First of all, workers versus tourists versus clubbers, the bar hoppers. Which one is more likely to tip? In my market, I'm in the Midwest. I've dealt with Chicago, St. Louis, Milwaukee, and points in the state of Iowa. In my market, tourists do seem to be the ones a little bit more upbeat. They're in town to have fun. The working class, not so much. Maybe if you get a waitress or someone in the service industry who knows the value of tipping, you might do a little bit better. But the businessman in a suit, at least in my market, and let me know in the comments, businessmen in suits, what do you normally see? But at my market, I'd rather have the Applebee's or the Chili's worker get in my vehicle than a businessman with a briefcase, because the Applebee's worker understands the value of a tip. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Wealthy versus poor. What do you see? We're picking up passengers from all over metropolitan areas. You know when you're in a wealthy area. You know when you're in a poor area or a downtrodden area. Now, there is a difference in regards to picking up folks in the hood versus picking up folks that are considered poor. So when I say a wealthy area versus a poor area, don't automatically let some, gang-riddled neighborhood come to mind, because there's a lot of poor people that do not live in high crime areas. They're just poor. So I don't want to, and also a lot of folks that live in high crime areas can have money. I'm from Chicago. There is a lot of money in the city of Chicago, even though it is exceptionally high on crime. So poor and crime are not always synonymous with each other. But in your markets, what do you see in terms of picking up passengers from wealthy areas versus poor areas? I don't know if I see much of a difference. I've dropped off some passengers at some big ass fucking houses and got nothing. And I've dropped off passengers at modest middle class residents and even apartment buildings and got a few bucks. So I don't necessarily know if there's any difference between wealthy and poor. Make no mistake about it. One of the main reasons why wealthy people stay wealthy is they don't share their shit. So do not automatically assume that a wealthy passenger is going to leave you any money. I had somebody in my comments state that RZA from Wu-Tang, they drove him to a mansion and he didn't tip him shit. So have any of you ever driven a celebrity or somebody you knew was worth a substantial amount of money from point A to point B and they didn't give you shit? Maybe a vice president of a company or the owner of a business that you were helping close at 3 a.m.? Took them from point A to point B, didn't tip you shit. Have you ever had that happen? But wealthy versus poor, in my opinion, not a stark difference. Old versus young. Now, I said in the beginning of the video, college kids aren't going to tip you shit. High school children and folks that are even younger who are getting in your vehicle because somebody else requested a ride in the first place, you may get a tip from their parents, but generally not. And that's one of the problems with a cashless transaction is that during the taxi days, you handed the money directly to the driver. So it was personal. So you could easily pull out a couple extra dollars because you're looking the dude in the face when you hand him the cash. So he knows right then and there you're either being generous or you're not giving him shit. When you can do it through the app, it takes out the personality of it. It makes it impersonal, and it's easier not to tip folks. I mean, it's just like if you're handing money to a waitress at the end of your meal, it's harder to skip out on tipping her when you're looking her right in the face. Ride sharing has made not tipping easy, and as I showed in my other video, they actually promoted it by discouraging passengers to tip in the first place. You seen the article I posted where they said tips are neither expected, or better yet, tips are neither required nor expected by drivers. And they did that for years, in Uber at least, discouraging tipping. City versus suburbs. I mentioned wealthy areas versus poor, but there are wealthy suburbs, there are poor suburbs. There are wealthy areas of the city and there are poor areas of the city. Do you see any difference if you are operating in a major city like, say, Los Angeles or Philadelphia somewhere, and a difference in between operating in the inner city versus taking trips and dropping people off in the suburbs? Once again, I don't know. In the markets I've driven in, I don't know if there's a significant difference in regards to tipping in the city versus the suburbs. Now, because so few passengers leave us any damn thing at all, it's difficult to even come to a conclusion on some of this shit because the data samples are so damn low. I mean, like I stated before in the early part of the video, we're only getting tipped by 20 to 30% of these people anyway. So the data sample is so damn low. I had a passenger in one of my other comment sections, pissed off, I suppose, being sarcastic that me and hundreds of you folks were talking about the lack of tips in this industry, stated some shit like, well, you're not entitled to a tip anyway, fine. But then he said something to the point of, if I give you $1 tip on a $30 fare, would that really pay your bills? My response is, hell yeah, it would make a huge difference. Even though $1 seems to be paltry on a $30 fare, there's a few things to take in consideration. First of all, our fares are rarely $30. Most of the trips we take pay less than $10. So giving $1 tip on a $30 fare is a situation that's not likely to happen at all. However, let's say you only gave $1 and the fare was $30. Is that insulting? No. Because as I stated before, we're only getting tipped 20 to 30% of the time. That means out of 10 trips, you're only getting tipped 2 to 3 of them. So if those other 7 trips only gave you $1 single dollar, think about how much that would add up during the week. I can do an average of 3 to 4 trips per hour. So let's say 3 trips per hour, and I do an 8-hour day. That's 24 trips. I'm probably going to be tipped maybe 4 of those trips or so. So those remaining 18 trips, if they only gave me $1, just one fucking dollar, 18 trips times 5 in terms of working for the Monday through Friday. 18 times 5, what is that? Shit, my math befuddles me. $90? $90. That would be an extra $90 per week in tips. 18 times 5 if my math is correct. Just from one single dollar. You're going to tell me that doesn't make a difference in rideshare, and that would not make a difference to some of these struggling drivers out here? So anyone acting as though, well, will $1 make a difference? Hell yeah, it will. $90 is going to pay a cell phone bill for some folks. Certainly it's going to be a couple tanks of gas for another individual. It might pay a utility bill. And that's just for 1 week. If you do 8 trips, or maybe 8 hours a day, and each one of those passengers out of that 70% that does not tip only give you $1 damn dollar. $90 a week. Talking $360 a month or more. So yeah, $1 makes a hell of a difference. That just shows you how few people do not tip us anything at all. In fact, I would prefer just every single passenger tip me $1 versus the random tips we do get. Because even though you occasionally do get a passenger that may tip you $10 or $20, they're so rare or infrequent that if you got tipped $1 from every single passenger, you would probably get more money. Because there's just so many folks that do not tip at all. Locations, airports, casinos, grocery stores. Is there locations where the passengers are more likely to tip? Picking up folks from a hospital. And I'm not a big fan of this shit that they're trying to do now, where they're trying to allow Uber passengers or Uber drivers to substitute ambulances and shit like that. I think the rideshare professor did a video. Good guy, does the work, fights the good fight. Did a video in which this woman, this executive from Uber, is working with hospitals, making a contract so that we can pick up hospital patients, taking them back and forth and helping them to skirt the high cost of ambulances and other carrier services. That would be great if they would pass any of that shit on to us. If you're picking up hospital passengers or hospital patients and you're doing it on behest of that contract, you think you're going to get paid a single cent more than any other passenger? Hell no. So why the hell would you want to do it? You want to put somebody in your car that has elephant leg and you got to get out and help them put that other leg in the car? I've done that shit. Not through Uber, but I used to be in the hospital care. That shit's not fun. Having to bend down and touch a leg that's got more colors than the damn LGBT flag. That's the type of shit that they're trying to enroll us in. They're going to make a contract with the hospitals, saving passengers, ambulance fees and all of that. Uber will get a kickback for the savings they're passing on to the patients, and they make a contract with the hospital and pass none of it on to us. In my opinion, avoid the hospitals. If they don't give us any cut in that shit, don't participate in that shit. Hospital trip pops up on the app, deny the ride. That's my opinion. Airports are another whole story altogether. A lot of folks in the comments suggest that they do get tips from airport trips. Most of the airport trips can be very lengthy. As I stated before in previous videos, I personally, your humble correspondent, I do not do airport trips. I do not believe in driving outside of my area because I'm going to be coming back empty. If I drive outside of my area, the chances of me getting a trip coming back are very slim. Therefore, that means I'm driving twice as far than I would if I kept my ass in the local area. Because you got to get back. You got to drive all the way there and back, and it just doesn't make sense in my area. Now, some of you folks, you pick up a trip at LAX and you drive down to Oceanside or somewhere like that, maybe there's a good chance you're going to get a trip coming back. So in your market, it may work for you. But in my market, I do not leave the city and take folks to suburbs and things like that. I've had enough airport trips in my past that didn't pay shit. So I also know I don't expect trips in my market to be tip heavy coming from airports. It's just not worth it. And in my market, the airport's on the outskirts of town. So you're going to drive 10 miles to get to the damn airport to begin with. So any airport trip pops up in my market, I rejected the trip. But if I was to be receiving on a fairly consistent basis nice tips, picking up passengers at the airport, I would go out there. I'm just like you. I might talk shit, but if I'm making money, I'm down with you. We're in this together. We both are enjoying the struggle together. We all like to drive. That's why we do this shit. But for some strange reason, Uber and Lyft decided, well, let's be greedy and treat as many drivers like shit as we can and get them to work for as low as we can. And they have made the industry not very lucrative. So we have to come up with these strategies to find ways around this shit. By the way, as I always state, subscribe to the channel. Show your boy some love. Click the notification bell. Coming to the end of this, women versus men. Do you see any tipping difference in gender issues? Okay, let's say you take a bunch of chicks to the club on a Saturday night as opposed to a bunch of guys. Do you see any difference in tipping? I don't know if I do. What about a couple, like a girlfriend-boyfriend or a husband-wife? Now, in that case, I do believe that married couples, I do see a little bit more play. So couples, particularly married couples, some of this helps with good conversation. I tend to be decent at speaking, and I can cover a variety of issues, sports, politics, you name it. For some of you who may watch my political videos. So that does help to some degree, but even still, I don't give a shit if you're in a fancy car, you got excellent conversation. It's just some people who have no intention or desire to tip you at all. Because of the way the whole business was structured, Uber particularly, and Lyft has followed, but Uber particularly has set this shit up to portray us as servants. So there's no shortage of folks who get in your car and treat you like you owe them shit. This is the way you should treat me. Your job is to serve me. Fuck that. I don't do that. Last but not least, I mentioned at the start of the video, and I'll wrap it up after this, black people do not tip. As I stated, is that racist? Hell no. If that's what's happening in your market, it's the damn truth. Most of your passengers that are black do not tip you, and the folks that are white or Hispanic or Asian tip you, then that's a true statement. I mean, you can call it what you want, but at the end of the day, we're out here to make money. We're not out here to play games. This ain't cancel culture. This is not woke culture. This is about green, about making money. So if your African-American passengers are not tipping you, feel free to say that shit, at least on my channel, because I want new drivers to know what the hell is going on. What about Asians? You got folks that live in the LA area. Chicago has a large Asian community, whether it's Vietnamese, Korean, Chinese, whatever the case may be. Do you see any tipping difference in the Asian culture? Now, I don't know if folks who live in Asia, if they tip their drivers over there or not at all, because folks do tend to come here and bring a lot of their cultures, the things they do in their culture, they bring it with them. So if they're not used to tipping rideshare drivers in Asia, they're not going to do it in the United States. So I just wanted to ask that because I lived overseas in Australia for a while. And the first day I went over there, I had a nice meal at a sit-down restaurant. And when I got ready to tip the waitress, they were shocked because they don't tip over there. They weren't used to it. So I was bringing my tipping culture from the United States to Australia. They do not tip over there. It's a whole different restaurant culture. So Asians, I don't know. What about Hispanics? Yes, clearly there is a ridiculously large Hispanic culture in America. Host of different countries, whether it's Mexican, Venezuelans, Guatemalans, Nicaraguans, Cubanos, there's a ton of that. If you live in Florida, you're going to encounter a lot of Cubanos. If you live in Texas, it's going to be a hell of a lot of Mexicans, Guatemalans, and folks that are from the southern portion of the border. So, do you see any difference in ethnicities? I mentioned black versus white versus Asian. Let folks know in the comments. I'm just curious. Like I said, this is a fun video. It's not trying to be formal because every market is going to be different. But this is a chance for folks to get out their spiel. Feel free to say whatever the hell you want in the comments because this is not about judging folks based on their viewpoints. Your viewpoint, your perception is reality in your market. If you say that only these type of people are tipping your ass, I have no reason to believe you're lying about that. There's no benefit to doing so. And you may help a new or prospective driver that's considering driving in your market. So feel free to state your market in the comments. At this point, I've bloviated enough. I want to see what you guys have to say. As always, I read, and respond to any and all comments. So, like I said, subscribe to the damn channel, show your boy some love, and I'll see you in the next video.